I think one of the most important things that we need to do in local government is be very clear in processes. And where I find most of the confusion is typically around the valuation and appraisal processes, property tax bills, the timing, what's the difference between the two. The first thing is that the county appraiser is an appointed position. He officially works for the Kansas Department of Revenue, the Property Valuation Division. Valuation notices go out with the Sedgwick County letterhead on it, but it's not Sedgwick County government that manages that process. The state statute delivers the guidelines on that process.
The appraiser uses a lot of different methodology to get to the value of your home. The simplest way is he just does comparatives of what's going on, what values of the homes or businesses are that are selling in that area. But he can also use, I live in an area where there's not a lot of other homes for sale, so it's my replacement cost is what he factors in.
When you think about the housing situation that we're in Sedgwick County and what's driven the quick spikes in housing values, well, we have low inventory. I'll give you an example. 2024, there was a little over 4,400 residential real estate transactions that took place in Sedgwick County. Of those 4,400, 91%, almost 4,100, sold over the county appraisal. So data is suggesting that even the county appraiser and the state is telling our county appraiser that you're still undervaluing property here. Your appraisal value then gets translated in what's called an assessed value. State of Kansas gives assessment rates depending on what type of property it is. So if you have a residential property, it's 11.5%. So let me give you an example. It's easy to explain in an example. If the appraisal process returns a $200,000 appraisal on your home, you take that times the assessment rate, which is 11.5%, and that will give you your assessed value, which in that example is $23,000. You then take your assessed value times the mill levy rate. So for example, Sedgwick County government is 28.701. Mill levy's in 1,000ths. So you take your assessed value times your mill levy rate, and that will give you the property tax dollars owed. And that's just for one taxing jurisdiction. When you get your property tax bill, that comes from the Sedgwick County Treasurer. She's doing it on behalf of the 170 plus taxing jurisdictions. You know, we're 20 to 25% of the property tax bill. I would tell you that there's not a lot of waste, there's not a lot in Sedgwick County's budget. I can't speak for the other 170 plus taxing jurisdictions, but for what we do, we operate very lean at a cost of government per citizens that's the lowest in the state. Sedgwick County government has the second lowest mill levy in the state for the counties.
16 of the functions that the county does is on behalf of the state of Kansas. So as we work through our budget and we look at what we can cut and what we have to leave alone, there are 16 entities that we basically provide boots on the ground service at the direction of the state of Kansas. Statutorily, we can't cut those.
And that's what I think this process is so helpful for local governments, to engage the constituents and say, we hear you. We hear you. What is the proper balance between the services we provide and the cost it takes to do that? I'll give you a practical example of this balance we try to find. 46 departments. Our property tax levy for the county is about $200 million. Of those 46 departments, 40% of our property tax levy goes to one department, the sheriff's office. Most people don't want service cuts, particularly in things like public safety, public health, and public works. So it's incumbent on us as local leaders to say, okay, how do we reform this model so we can maintain the same level of service, but do it at a more efficient and more and less cost? And that's the conversation that's happening now, and I'm really hopeful and really optimistic about what this will turn out for us.